Law 1 from The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene teaches a powerful but uncomfortable truth about human nature. Never outshine the master. Because in the real world, people are driven more by ego and insecurity than logic. Imagine you are talented, smart, and naturally stand out. This seems like an advantage, but in a power dynamic, especially under a boss or leader, it can become a threat. Because when you shine too brightly, you unintentionally make those above you feel insecure. And insecure, powerful people often react by removing the threat rather than supporting it. Just like what happened to Nicolas Fouquet, the finance minister of Louis XIV, who threw a grand, luxurious party to impress the king, but ended up outshining him, making the king feel inferior, and was arrested the very next day, spending the rest of his life in prison, showing that it's not your intention that matters, but how others perceive you. And this is where most people fail. They believe that showing their talent will earn admiration, but in reality, it often creates jealousy and fear. Now, contrast this with the approach of Galileo Galilei, who discovered the moons of Jupiter, and, instead of claiming all the glory for himself, he cleverly dedicated his discovery to the Medici family, linking their name to the stars and making them feel powerful and important, which earned him status, protection, and financial security, proving that true intelligence is not just about brilliance, but about presentation. The deeper insight here is that people care less about how smart you are and more about how you make them feel, especially those in power. And every human has an ego defense system that reacts negatively when it feels overshadowed. So if you openly display superiority, even unintentionally, you trigger resistance. But if you make others feel superior, they naturally support and elevate you. This doesn't mean you should suppress your abilities forever or become fake, but it means you must develop the skill of timing and awareness, knowing when to shine and when to step back, when to speak and when to stay silent. Because power is not about constant visibility, but controlled visibility. In practical life, this means letting your boss take credit sometimes, asking for their advice even when you already know the answer, and presenting your ideas in a way that makes them feel like their own. Because people support what they feel ownership over and resist what threatens their position. Psychologically, this works because humans are emotional beings who prioritize status and self-image over objective truth. So managing perception becomes more important than showcasing raw talent. However, this law also has a strategic edge. You don't follow it blindly, because if your superior is weak or losing power, there may come a moment where outshining them becomes necessary. But even then, timing and subtlety are everything. The ultimate truth is that in every environment there is always a sun, a central figure of power, and everyone else revolves around them. And if a star tries to shine brighter than the sun at the wrong time, it risks being burned. But if it reflects the sun's light while quietly growing its own strength, it can eventually rise on its own. So the real lesson of Law 1 is not about hiding who you are, but about understanding people deeply, controlling perception intelligently, and playing the long game. Because those who master ego, timing, and psychology don't just survive in the power game, they quietly take control of it. Subscribe for Law 2.